Hello, everyone. I'm Billy.
And I'm Kamraun. Welcome to the HorseFrog podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors and the creators of the Malazan Brotherhood.
Today, we'll be discussing Book 2, Chapter 11 of Memories of Ice, a novel in the Malazan Books of the Fallen. This is part 2 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it is most definitely not a replacement to reading the books. Both Billy and I know this to be the best fantasy story ever written and want to share our love of the series with you.
We will be covering the events of the books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those that have not read the books, and we'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering that portion of the respective book. And, dude, great job so far.
Yep. We're killing it this season. Haven't had to edit hardly anything out.
Nice. Good job.
Quick warning, today's episode contains adult topics not suitable for children.
Ooh, adult topics. I'm sorry. Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we'd really appreciate that. So you can do so by visiting our Patreon link on our website at HorseFrogProductions.com. Currently, we're posting ad-free episodes on Patreon weekly.
Also, we'd really like to hear from you. Send any feedback or comments to contact@horsefrogproductions.com. We have an addition this week. We got an email and a comment from Franklin G., and he mentioned that we were speaking of Kamraun Crust, and that as he's reading through the Path to Ascendancy books, he's seeing that Kamraun is mentioned quite a bit there among the other Nappins, and he also says that he's a pretty cool character. Additionally, in his Spotify comment, he mentioned that Billy and I were asking about whether the god is shaped by the followers or if the followers are shaped by the god, and we were specifically talking about Kilonved and whether he was crazy before he became the god of shadow, or if Pust was crazy and drove Kilonved crazy. You know, that type of relationship.
Right.
Franklin said, no, Kilonved is quite crazy in the Path to Ascendancy book, so it appears that we need to read those books, Billy, because there's a lot of information that we're asking about that is delved into there.
Okay, very cool.
Franklin, thank you for reaching out to us. We appreciate you listening.
Yes. Thank you, Franklin. We really thank you so much. I look forward to checking those out.
All right, Chapter 11, Part 2. We pick up the chapter with Quick Ben and Anstey's squad. Picker studied Quick Ben as they trudged up a grass-backed hillside. She asked, "You want us to get someone to carry you, Mage?" Quick Ben wiped the sweat from his brow, then shook his head and said, "No. It's getting better. The Barghast spirits are thick here, and getting thicker. They're resisting the infection. I'll be all right, Corporal." Picker said, "If you say so, only you're looking pretty rough to me," she thought, and ain't that an understatement. Quick Ben said, "Hood's Warren is never a fun place." Picker said, "That's bad news, Mage. What have we all got to look forward to then?" And that is quite the salient question.
I know. I laughed out loud when I first read this. It's a very salient question indeed.
I guess it makes the fear of death a little bit greater if you have nothing to look forward to.
More valid. Yeah.
Quick Ben said nothing. Picker scowled and said, "That bad, huh? Well, that's just great. Wait till Antsy hears." Quick Ben managed a smile. He said, "You tell him news only to see him squirm, don't you?" Picker said, "Sure. The squad needs its entertainment, right?" Poor Antsy. They're always picking on that guy.
This guy must have been awful with his Antsy behavior. Must have been awful in boot camp, but I'm assuming it has worsened significantly since his introduction to this lot on the road. Good gracious.
Yeah, if they're antagonizing him every chance they get for amusement's sake.
Yeah, in between your common soldier PTSD and this.
Yeah, definitely. They reached the summit of the hill. The squad had seen no one since Twist's visit at dawn. They knew the duel had taken place by now, but had no idea of its outcome. Picker thought, "Hood, we could walk into our own execution." Spindle and Quick Ben were next to useless, unable and unwilling to test the taste of their warrens. Hedge's jaw was too swollen for him to manage anything more than grunts, but the looks he cast at Deteran's back as she walked point hinted at plans of murderous vengeance. I wonder what he has in store for her.
I'm assuming it involves a Moranth munition of one type or another.
Oh, man, not that bad. It's got to be something, though. A Moranth munition, unless there's some type of minimal firework that we haven't heard of yet, they're all pretty damaging.
That is true, but it's like, you can always, try to frag them yourself, kind of like Vietnam style. I'm sorry, not that I'm implying this happens in Vietnam or any place like this, but maybe this has happened. I've heard of maybe somebody has fragged somebody, like they've gotten a little too close to the X. Whoops, sorry. Got friendly fire. I know there's some friendly fire incidences, I know. And I'm like, oh yeah, friendly fire.
Blend was scouting somewhere ahead, or behind, Picker thought, or maybe in my hood-damn shadow. She glanced over her shoulder to check, but Blend wasn't there. Ansi, taking up the rear, kept up a private conversation with himself, ceaselessly mumbling. By Twist's estimate, the Barghast gathering was in a valley 4 leagues to the north. They'd arrive before sunset, if all went well. Striding at her side, Quickben voiced a soft grunt, and Picker turned in time to see a score of dirt-smeared hands closing around his legs. The earth seemed to foam beneath Quickben's boots. Then he was being dragged down, stained bony fingers clutching, tugging, gnarled forearms reaching upward to wrap themselves about the wizard's struggling form. Picker bellowed, "Quick!" flinging herself towards him. He reached for her, a look of dumb amazement on his face as the soil heaved around his waist. Pounding footsteps and shouts closed in. Picker's hand clamped on his wrist. Earth surged to his chest. The hands reappeared to grasp Quickben's right arm and drag it down. Her eyes met his. Then he shook his head and said, "Let me go, Corporal." Picker asked, "Are you mad?" Quickben said, "Now, before you get my arm torn off." His right shoulder was yanked beneath the soil. Spindle appeared, flinging himself forward to wrap an arm around Quickben's neck. Picker yelled, "Let him go!" releasing his wrist. Spindle stared up at her and asked, "What?" Picker said, "Let him go, damn you!" Spindle unlocked his arm and rolled away, cursing. Ansi burst among them, his short-handled shovel already in his hands as Quickben's head vanished beneath the earth. Dirt began flying. Picker snapped, "Ease off there, Sergeant! You'll end up taking off the top off of his damn head!" Ansi stared at her, then leapt back as if standing on coals. He cursed, "Hood!" then raised his shovel and squinted at the blade. He said, "I don't see no blood. Anybody see any blood? Or, God's hair! Is that hair? Oh, Queen of Dreams." Man, the reactions from these guys. Spindle wrapping an arm around his neck is crazy to me. He'd be liable to break his neck trying to pull him out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, you gotta love, it's like they're not going to lose a person. They'll bring them back. It may not be all of them. They're going to bring you something. Well, this is what we saved, Quickben.
He might bring his head back.
Right. Well, we brought him back, but this is all we got, Oh.
That shovel digging into the ground had me cringing.
Oh.
That was a good call, stopping Ansi from digging into his skull.
Oh, I know it. I was thinking the exact same thing. That's a scary thought.
When Talamandus was first introduced and Quickben was having that conversation with him, and then he freed him from his bindings based off of Talamandus's answers, I had mentioned that I was always cautiously optimistic about that relationship, because we've seen in the past that there are incredibly powerful beings. Some of them are malevolent.
Yeah.
And these two seem to have a really good rapport from the outset. And then this happens.
Yeah.
And it freaks me out.
It's so funny because I had never really thought about that, because I'm so wrapped up in the idea of what happened when he left the crippled god. And I just assumed it had something to do with that. And I'm not even right about that, because I was thinking it was that. I mean, I wasn't even thinking that it was anything but that for some reason. I've always liked Talamandus like you. For some reason, I'm optimistic.
This abduction felt a little bit different to me because I believe when Quickben was pulled down the last time, they didn't make such a big deal about so many hands pulling him down. It was almost as if a hole opened up and something grabbed him by the ankle and dragged him down, but it wasn't constantly arms and hands pulling him down further and further and further. He was instantly transported through what seemed like a warren of earth. No,
he was coughing up mud.
Well, yeah, because he went through dirt.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like he got a lot deeper into it than I thought. I'm not sure what I thought. I'm not really sure I thought. It's unpleasant either way. Too reminiscent of the grave for my taste.
Right. Spindle grabbed the shovel from Ansi and growled, "That ain't hair. That's roots, you idiot. They got him. They got Quickben." Picker asked, "Who has?" Spindle said, "Barghast spirits. A whole horde of them. We was ambushed." Picker asked, "What about you then?" Spindle said, "I ain't dangerous enough, I guess. At least I hope not. I gotta get off this damn barrow. That's what I gotta do." Picker watched him scamper away, then said, "Hedge, keep an eye on him, will you?" The swollen-faced sapper nodded, trudged off after Spindle. Ansi hissed, "What do we do now?" Picker said, "We wait a bell or two. Then if the wizard ain't managed to claw his way back out, we go on." Ansi's eyes widened. He whispered, "We leave him?" Picker said, "It's either that or we level this damned hill. and we wouldn't find him anyway. He's been pulled into their warren. It's here, but it ain't here, if you know what I mean. Maybe when Spindle finds his nerve, he can do some probing. Antsy muttered, I knew that Quick Ben wasn't nothing but trouble. Can't count on mages for nothing. You're right. What's the point of waiting around? They're damned useless anyway. Let's pack up and get going. Pigger said, it won't hurt to wait a little while. Antsy said, yeah, probably a good idea. She shot him a glance, then looked away with a sigh. She said, could do with something to eat. Might want to fix us something special, Sergeant. Antsy said, I got dried dates and breadfruit, and some smoked leeches from that market south side in Pale. She winced and said, sounds good. Antsy said, I'll get right on it. He hurried off. Pigger thought, gods, Antsy, you're losing it fast. And what about me? Mention dates and leeches and my mouth's salivating. I take it Antsy has a strange taste in food, given this is the second time that Picker and him have had an exchange about it.
Yeah, they can have it, man.
Yeah, the first meal that he was talking about, the hares with, I forget what it was, but it was a really odd-sounding combination. That stew that he was talking about making.
Yeah, the hare was the only good-sounding part of it.
Yeah. We are taken somewhere else. The high, proud canoes lay rotting in the swamp, the ropes strung between them and nearby cedar bowls bearded in moss. Dozens of the craft were visible. Humped bundles of supplies lay on low rises, swathed in thick mold, sprouting toadstools and mushrooms. The light was pallid, faintly yellow. Quick Ben, dripping with slime, dragged himself upright, spitting foul water from his mouth as he slowly straightened to look around. His attackers were nowhere in sight. A faint smell of salt was in the air. He thought, I'm in a long-dead warren, decayed by the loss of mortal memory. The living Barghast know nothing of this place, yet it is where their dead go, assuming they make it this far. He said, all right, I'm here. What do you want? Movement in the mists alerted him. Figures appeared, closing in tentatively, knee-deep in the swirling black water. Quick Ben's eyes narrowed. These creatures were not the Barghast he knew from the mortal realm. Squatter, wider, robustly boned, they were a mix of Imass and Toblakai. That's funny. I would think the Toblakai genes would add some height to their stature as well.
I agree. I would think that would add a significant amount of height to them. And the funny thing with the IMAS mix, you notice they always use the term robustly boned or robust. It's always with the IMAS. we can't say anything else about them because we know their bones look good. It's like, your bones are robust. Nice.
You like weird stories? You like bizarre accounts? You like horror movies?
Come on down to Pumpkin Hill Radio for all your paranormal, metaphysical, and high strangeness needs. Every Tuesday with host Travis, that's me, and Dawson.
It's me. You ever seen something you can't explain? You ever felt something you can't explain?
Do you have questions that nobody can answer?
You heard a story that made you feel completely mad?
Do you feel like you shouldn't Google what you just saw?
Have you tried to Google it and got nothing?
We might be able to help.
We're looking for it.
That's every Tuesday with host Travis and Dawson, Pumpkin Hill Radio. Come on down.
PHR, baby.
Pumpkin Hill Radio, available on all platforms. Anything else to say?
We'll see you there. Give it a follow. Tell your friends.
Got those thick bones.
Healthy bones, right on.
He's just big boned.
Hey, you want to be big boned in that society.
Apparently. Quick Ben thought, gods, how old is this place? Hooded brow ridges hid small, glittering eyes in darkness. Black leather strips stitched their way down gaunt cheeks, reaching past hairless jawlines where they were tied around small long bones that ran parallel to the jaw. Black hair hung in rough braids, parted down the middle. The men and women closing in around Quick Ben were one and all dressed in close-fitting seal skins decorated with bone, antler, and shell. Long, thin-bladed knives hung at their hips. A few of the males carried barbed spears that seemed made entirely of bone. A smaller figure skittered onto a rotted cedar stump directly in front of Quick Ben, a man-shaped bundle of sticks and string with an acorn head. Quick Ben nodded and said, Talamandus, I thought you were returning to the White Faces. Talamandus said, and so I did, mage, thanks solely to your cleverness. Quick Ben said, you've an odd way of showing your gratitude, old one. Quick Ben looked around then asked, where are we? Talamandus said, the first landing. Here wait the warriors who did not survive the journey's end. Our fleet was vast, mage, yet when the voyage was done, fully half of the canoes held only corpses. We had crossed an ocean in ceaseless battle. That sounds like a voyage fraught with peril. those Tistadurs certainly took a toll on their numbers.
Yeah, that's rough. I forgot the Tistadur were responsible for this decimation here.
Yeah, that's what those images that were carved into the ships in Kapustan that were buried.
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
Kafal told Itkovian about the Tistadur.
Okay.
Quick Ben asked, and where do the Barghast dead go now? Talamanda said, nowhere and everywhere. They are lost. Wizard, your challenger has slain Humbraltar's champion. The spirits have drawn breath and hold it still, for the man may yet die. Quick Ben flinched. He was silent for a moment, then he said, and if he does? Talamanda said, your soldiers will die. Humbraltar has no choice. He will face civil war. The spirits themselves will lose their unity. You would be too great a distraction, a source of greater divisiveness. But this is not why I've had you brought here. Talamandus gestured at the figures standing silent behind him, then said, these are the warriors, the army. Yet our war chiefs are not among us. The founding spirits were lost long ago. Mage, a child of Humbraltar, has found them. Found them! Quick Ben said, but there's a problem. Talamandus seemed to slump. He said, there is. They are trapped within the city of Kapustan. The implications of that slowly edged into place in Quick Ben's mind. He asked, does Humbraltar know? Talamandus said, he does not. I was driven away by his shouldermen. The most ancient of spirits are not welcome. Only the young ones are allowed to be present, for they have little power. Their gift is comfort, and comfort has come to mean a great deal among the Barghast. It was not always so. You see before you a pantheon divided, and the vast schism between us is time, and the loss of memory. We are as strangers to our children. They will not listen to our wisdom, and they fear our potential power. I found that interesting. I guess this is what has led to the stagnation of the Barghast that Boshalane alluded to. Even in death, the spirits vie for power, and the living Barghast have suffered for it.
Is that it, or is that the Barghast have become soft and or are becoming soft and don't want the more ancient? I mean, are the spirits themselves divided, or are the Barghast not wanting this? Like the shoulderman drove him off, that alluded to giving comfort to the people.
So you're saying it's the shouldermen that are driving them away because they're not wanting to hear the wisdom of the ancients. They're more comfortable with the more recent spirits.
Yeah, maybe so. Another fact that it just dawned on me was the fact that this is where... So does each warren that people follow certain entities and maybe have their own warren for their own culture and or whatever, however that business works, does their souls go to that particular warren? That's what it implies here, except that maybe all warrens eventually wind up in Hood's realm.
Well, I don't know if Hood was a thing back then in the olden times.
Right. Well, maybe not Hood, but what
he would have had to have been, though.
But even then, it would be the realm. Wouldn't the realm have existed? See, that's almost more of an elder thing, wouldn't you think?
Well, we can't really talk too much about some examples from future books.
Sure.
Everything is supposed to go to Hood's realm now that I think about it. Even some of the elder races.
Would it have been like the realm exists and maybe Hood just seized control of it? Possibly.
I don't know about that because the Warren of the Talani Mass, which had the beast thrones that are currently
vacant,
not held by anybody, that was their Warren that they were worshipping back in the day. Right?
Yes.
So I don't know if they would have gone there or to Hood's realm when they died because they took the vow.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it's like they created it with the vow. It's almost like they created something entirely different and vacated that warren. I guess it's not completely vacant because there's a couple of, appears to be, is there living bone casters been revealed yet?
Yeah.
Kalavo, she was talking with him. Yeah. So with that, maybe she's one of the only people using the warren. Not that she's the mistress of it or the master of it or whatever, but maybe is because everyone else is tuned into the, Talan 2.0 with the vow.
There's a fork. They split off a fork of the code and then...
Exactly.
This conversation is fraught with potential spoilers.
I know it. So let's back off this edge.
Yeah.
We'll just stop. I'll stop.
Okay. But I think you're right in that the current living shouldermen among the Barghast are driving this, not necessarily the spirits themselves. I think I misinterpreted that. I think you had it right.
Okay. Thank you, Sam.
Quick Ben asked, was it Humbroltar's hope that his child would find these founding spirits? Talamanda said, he embraces a grave risk, yet he knows the white-face clans are vulnerable. The young spirits are too weak to resist the Panyan Daman. They will be enslaved or destroyed. When comfort is torn away, all that will be revealed is a weakness of faith, an absence of strength. The clans will be crushed by the Daman's armies. Humbroltar reaches for power, yet he gropes blindly. Quickben asked, and when I tell him that the ancient spirits have been found, will he believe me? Talamanda said, you are our only hope. You must convince him. Quickben said, I freed you from the wards. Talamanda said, what do you ask in return? I feel like we can breathe a sigh of relief now, knowing that Talamandus still appears to be an ally.
Yes, agreed. And I really do like Talamandus. I wasn't scoffing at you, sir. I was laughing at the "you're our only hope." I just had a Leia moment there for episode 4.
I had a couple of those today.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. Did you? Okay.
That came into my head earlier on a different line, but a very similar thought. I was like, oh, God, this is exactly out of Star Wars almost. That's funny.
Nice.
Plucked right from my
Great
mind.
minds, brother. Great minds. Exactly.
Quickben said, Trots needs to survive his wounds. He must be recognized as champion so that he can legitimately take his place among the Council of Chiefs. We need a position of strength, Talamandus. Talamandus said, I cannot return to the tribes, wizard. I will only be driven away once again. Quickben asked, can you channel your power through a mortal? Talamandus slowly cocked his head. Quickben said, we've a Denul healer, but like me, he's having trouble making use of his warren. The Panyan's poison, Talamandus said. To be gifted with our power, he must be led to this warren, to this place. Quickben said, well, why don't we figure out a way to achieve that? Talamandus slowly turned to survey his spirit kin. After a moment, he faced Quickben once again and said, agreed. I love the way these two work together. Their immediate bond is something that I've always enjoyed when reading this book.
Yeah, I really dig it. I have a hard time putting my finger on it. It's like we have equals in a weird way. They are, to some extent, because this thing is ancient, and Quick has a lot of knowledge, but sometimes he doesn't have full, I don't know, just he's still a mystery. I don't know what Quick is. He's a hoarder of souls, according to Calor. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Speaking of Calor, I was thinking it's been a while since we've had anything with Calor. It's been at least a month.
Yeah.
Granted, that's only 2 chapters for us. But
Right.
we've had a break from Calor for a while.
We have. It's kind of funny, but because at the end of this chapter tonight, I make a reference to looking forward to something in the future, but it just made me think that we may not go where I'm thinking next chapter, and I'll try to bring that around.
Okay. We are taken to the Barghast camp. A rogue javelin arced up towards Twist as he and his passenger began their descent. The quarrel darted to one side, then quickly dropped towards the circle. Laughter and cursing voices rose from the gathered warriors, but no further gestures were made. Perrin cast one last scan over the squad standing guard around Trots and Mulch, then jogged to where Twist and a blistered mallet were dismounting amidst challenges and threatening weapons. Perrin bellowed, "Clear them a path, damn you!" thrusting a Sanan tribesman aside as he pushed closer. The man righted himself with a growl, then showed his filed teeth in a challenge. Perrin ignored it. 5 jostling strides later, he reached Twist and Mallet. Mallet's eyes were wide with alarm. He said, "Captain." Perrin interrupted, "Aye, it's heating up, Mallet. Come with me. Twist, you might want to get the abyss out of here." Twist said, "Agreed. I shall return to Sergeant Ansie's squad. What has happened?" Perrin said, "Trots won the fight, but we might lose the war. Get going before you get skewered." Twist said, "Yes, Captain." Taking Mallet by one arm, Perrin swung about and began pushing through the crowd. He said, "Trots needs you. It's bad. A crushed throat." Mallet asked, "Then how in Hood's name is he still alive?" Perrin said, "Mulch opened a hole above his lungs and the bastard's breathing through that." Mallet frowned, then slowly nodded. He said, "Clever. But, Captain, I may not be much use to you or Trots." Perrin's head snapped around. He said, "You'd better be. If he dies, so do we." Mallet said, "My warren." Perrin interrupted, "Never mind the excuses. Just heal the man, damn you." Mallet said, "Yes, sir, but just so you know, it'll probably kill me." Perrin said, "Feiner's balls." Mallet said, "It's a good exchange, sir. I can see that. Don't worry, I'll heal Trots. You'll all get out of this, and that's what matters right now." Perrin stopped. He closed his eyes, fighting the sudden waves of pain from his stomach. Through clenched teeth, he said, "As you say, Mallet." What a tough choice for Perrin there, weighing the life of Mallet against all those that would be lost if Trots dies.
Yeah, this is the absolutely worst kind of choice in this, it's unfortunately, if you're in any kind of command structure in the military, and especially in this universe, that you're going to be making those calls kind of frequently. So this is a bad one, especially with your healer. But you've got to, at this point, really give it all you've got, because you're all dead and you need this alliance to go through. And just a quick aside, of the Barghast the Klingons of this world? I'm sorry, I don't mean to go Star Trek on us. I'm not a big Star Trek guy, but...
We were talking about, it was a couple weeks ago, the duels and how extreme it was, the number of duels and challenges that were happening in this camp. And I believe you did mention that it was almost Klingon-like in nature.
Okay. I thought I might have said that before or something about that, because it's just so... I can understand if you want to get your best guy, because, we're really ticked off at this bunch over here. It's like, okay, well, then get your best guy, or, whatever. But not, like 50 of your guys and 50 of my guys are going to individually call each other, or 150 are going to... However many it was. It's a loss of some good fighters, man. It's like, maybe stop the duels on a war... okay, we may be going to war here. Let's kind of hold off on keep it to a minimum, fellas. Keep it to a minimum, and no horseplay. No funny business.
Perrin pushing that one guy aside gave the guy the reaction to challenge him to a duel.
Yeah.
So that was just from accidentally jostling somebody. Well, I mean, it was an accident. He did push him out of the way, but that is the level of extremism we're talking about, to the point where that would have ended in death for one of them just because somebody got pushed.
Exactly.
It's pretty ridiculous.
So just a complete waste.
Mallet said, Aimless is waving us over. Perrin said, aye. Go on then, healer. Mallet said, yes, sir. Mallet disengaged his arm and headed over to the squad. Perrin forced open his eyes. He thought, look at the bastard. Not a falter in his step. Not a blink at his fate. What are these soldiers? I thought that was amazing. Mallet takes the direction like a champ, a true professional. And the sheer discipline it would take to do this is crazy.
Yeah, and just what a guy, man. This just floored me. And what's funny, I love that. What are these soldiers? He's not the first person to say, what? Who made you? What are you? It's just like, it's everyone wants to know, because these guys are just, they're down for it, It's like, okay, you know what? I got to do my job.
Yeah, it's almost like you need to have them go through some extreme thing together where they survive, and then you'll have that.
Yeah. Dude, they're like they are the ultimate Marines, man. Let's just face it.
They're a pretty good example of them, that's for sure.
They are. Yeah. Willing to lay down your life without a second thought.
I can't think of any others off the top of my head.
Sure.
Any that we've met thus far, that is.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Mallet pushed Mulch aside, knelt next to Trots, met the warrior's hard eyes, and reached out a hand. Mulch hissed, Mallet, you're Warren. Mallet said, shut up, eyes closing as his fingers touched the collapsed, mangled throat. He opened his warren, and his mind shrieked as virulent power rushed into him. He felt his flesh swelling, splitting, heard the blood spurt and Mulch's shocked cry. Then the physical world vanished within a thrashing sea of pain. Mallet thought, find the path, damn it, the mending way, the vein of order. Gods, stay sane, healer, hold on. But he felt his sanity being torn away, devoured. His sense of self was being shredded to pieces before his mind's eye, and he could do nothing. He drew on that core of health within his own soul, drew on its power, felt it pour through his fingertips to the ravaged cartilage of Trot's throat, but the core began to dissolve. Hands grasped him, tore at him, a new assault. His spirit struggled, tried to pull away. Screams engulfed him from all sides, as of countless souls being destroyed. Hands fell away from his limbs, were replaced by new ones. He was being dragged, his mind yielding to the savage determination of those grasping, clawing hands. Sudden calm. Mallet found himself kneeling in a fetid pool, shrouded in silence. Then a murmuring arose all around him. He looked up. 1,000 voices whispered in susurrating unison, take from us. Take our power. Return to your place, and use all that we give to you. But hurry. The path we have laid is a costly one. So costly. Mallet opened himself to the power swirling around him. He had no choice. He was helpless before its demand. His limbs, his body, felt like wet clay, molded anew. From the bones outward, his tattered soul was being reassembled. He lurched upright, swung round, and began walking. A lumpy, yielding ground was underfoot. He did not look down, simply pushed on. The Denul Warren was all around him now, savage and deadly, yet held back from him. Unable to reclaim his soul, the poison howled. Mallet could feel his fingers once more, still pressed against the broken throat of his friend, yet within his mind he still walked. Step by step, inexorably pushed onward. He thought, this is the journey to my flesh. Who has done this for me? Why? The warren began to dim around him. He was almost home. Mallet looked down to see what he knew he would see. He walked a carpet of corpses. His path through the poisoned horror of his warren. Costly, so costly. Mallet's eyes blinked open. Bruised skin beneath his fingers, yet no more than that. He blinked sweat away, met Trot's gaze. He thought 2 paths, it seems. One for me and one for you, friend. Trotz weakly lifted his right arm. Mallet clasped it with an iron grip and whispered, "You're back, you shark-toothed bastard." Trotz croaked, "Who? Who paid?" Mallet shook his head and said, "I don't know. Not me." Trott's eyes flicked down to the split and bleeding flesh of Mallet's arms. Mallet shook his head again and said, "Not me, Trotz." That's one of those incredibly sad scenes for me. All those souls sacrificing themselves to help Mallet heal Trotz. And the way I interpreted it, this isn't like they're going to Hood's realm. I take it that they're being utterly destroyed. What about you?
Yeah. I think that they're utterly destroyed, and that really, it's really quite moving what they're doing. The sacrifice is just that they're making of themselves is quite beautiful due to that very fact that I think that they're being destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that to help, is it because they're so behind? They just so trust in the plan that Quick has about the Barghast, apparently, and that this is like we got to do this to help this. So it's intriguing when you think about all the pieces.
I think from their perspective, Talamandis is trying to get the elders to come to the fore, and in order for that to happen, a sacrifice has to be made, and this is the way they get there.
Yeah.
So that's probably the impetus behind the sacrifice.
Yeah, and to reclaim your promised land. I mean, your afterlife promised land. You know.
Yeah, true. Also, we've heard of the effects of chaos on the Warrens, but I think this was the first time that we started to see how bad it was getting. So Quick Ben was fevered a little bit, and we heard Mallet talking about how it was making him sick, but his soul being ripped apart by accessing it is a completely different scenario than that which we've seen so far.
When he touched it immediately, it made his skin rupture on his arm.
Yes.
And it's like, it's that nasty. Just that very slight contact almost. It's like, okay, here you go. Just for touching me, this is what you get. The warrant of healing, it's going to just split you open if you're not, so yeah, it's rough, dude. It's nasty. This poison is nasty because they're closer to it also, apparently.
I just got Darkman imagery when Darkman's holding on to whatever, was it some electrical thing or something? And it starts splitting his hands and his arms and stuff. Isn't that what happened to him? He got all burned up.
It gets all burned up, dude. Burnt up real bad.
It's a weird movie.
It's Sam Raimi's superhero movie. First superhero movie.
Yeah. Perrin could not move, dared not approach closer. All he could see was a huddle of soldiers around where Trotz lay and Mallet knelt. He thought, "Gods forgive me. I ordered that healer to kill himself. If this is the true face of command, then it is a skull's grin. I want none of it. No more, Perrin. You cannot steel yourself to this life, to these choices. Who are you to balance lives, to gauge worth, to measure flesh by the pound? No, this is a nightmare. I'm done with it." Mulch staggered into view, swung to Perrin. The man's face was white, his eyes wide. He stumbled over. Perrin thought, "No, tell me nothing. Go away, damn you." He said, "Let's hear it, healer." Mulch said, It's all right, Captain. Trotz will make it." Perrin asked, "And Mallet?" Mulch said, "Superficial wounds. I'll take care of those, sir. He lives. Don't ask me how." Perrin said, "Leave me, Mulch." Mulch asked, "Sir?" Perrin said, "Go. Back to Mallet. Get out of my sight." Perrin swung his back to the man, listened to him scurrying away. He shut his eyes, waiting for the agony of his gut to resume, to rise once again like a fist of fire, but all was quiescent within him. He wiped at his eyes, drew a deep breath. He thought, "No one dies. We're all getting out of here. Better tell Humbrol Tar. Trotz has won his claim. And damn the rest of you to Hood." Do you read into this at all, with his stomach settling down when he finally assumed the role he needed to and quit fighting it?
I hope so. I really do, because I get tired of Perrin doing this to himself. When the first time I read this, I read it differently. I was not very sympathetic to him and didn't care for him sometimes. But I really have grown to like Perrin so much, and mainly I don't like seeing him do it to himself because I've come to love him so much. I don't like seeing him tear himself up.
Yeah, fighting it is really hurting him. All that anxiety.
Yeah, it's costing him everything. It is. So I hope he can come through it quick.
15 paces away, Mulch and Aimless crouched, watching Perrin's back straighten, watching as he adjusted his sword belt, watching as he strode towards Humbroltar's command tent. Mulch muttered, "He's a hard bastard." Aimless said, "Cold as a Jagoot winter." Mallet looked a dead man there for a time. Mulch said, "For a time, he damn near was." The two men were silent for a while. Then Mulch leaned to one side and spat, then said, "Captain might make it after all." Aimless said, "Aye, he might." One of the soldiers nearby shouted, "Hey, look at that ridge. Ain't that Deteran? And there's Spindle. They're carrying somebody between 'em." Mulch said, "Probably Quick Ben. Played too long in his warrings. Idiot." Aimless sneered, "Mages. Who needs the lazy bastards anyway?" Mulch said, "Mages, huh? And what about healers, Corporal?" Aimless's long face suddenly lengthened even more as his jaw dropped. He said, Healers are good, Mulch. Damned good. I meant wizards and sorcerers and the like." Mulch interrupted, "Stow it before you say something real stupid, Aimless. Well, we're all here now. Wonder what these white faces will do to us." Aimless said, "Trot's won." Mulch said, "So?" Aimless's jaw dropped a second time. Wood smoke filled Humbroltar's hide tent. The huge war chief stood alone, his back to the round hearth, silhouetted by the fire's light. As Perrin let the hide flap drop behind him, Humbroltar rumbled, "What have you to tell me?" Perrin said, "Trots lives. He asserts his claim to leadership." Humbroltar said, "Yet he has no tribe." Perrin interrupted, "He has a tribe, war chief, 38 bridge burners. He showed you that, in the style he chose for the duel." Humbroltar said, "I know what he showed us."
Yes. Preach it, brother. I just love that when he's got the 38 bridge burners. That's his tribe, Bubba. I love it. It's great.
Humbroltar said, "I know what he showed us." Perrin again interrupted, "Yet who understood?" Humbroltar said, "I did, and that is all that matters." There was silence. Perrin studied the tent and its meager scatter of contents, seeking clues as to the nature of the warrior who stood before him. The floor was covered in veteran hides. A half-dozen spears lay to one side, one of them splintered. A lone wooden chest carved from a single tree trunk, big enough to hold a 3-deep stack of stretched-out corpses, dominated the far wall. The lid was thrown back, revealing on its underside a huge, massively complex locking mechanism. An unruly tumble of blankets ran parallel to the chest where Tar evidently slept. Coins, stitched into the hide walls, glittered dully on all sides, and on the conical ceiling more coins hung like tassels, these ones blackened by years of smoke. Humbroltar said, "You have lost your command, Captain." Perrin blinked, met the war chief's dark eyes, and said, "That is a relief." Humbroltar said, "Never admit your unwillingness to rule, Malazan. What you fear in yourself will cloud your judgment of all that your successor does. Your fear will blind you to his wisdom and stupidity both. Trots has never been a commander. I saw that in his eyes when he first stepped forward from your ranks. You must watch him, now, with clear vision." The man turned and walked to the chest. He said, "I have mead. Drink with me." Perrin thought, "Gods, my stomach." He said, "Thank you, war chief." Humbroltar withdrew from the chest a clay jug and 2 wooden mugs. He unstoppered the jug, sniffed tentatively, then nodded and poured. He said, "We shall wait another day. Then I shall address the clans. Trots will have leave to speak. He has earned his place among the chiefs. But I tell you this now, Captain." He handed Perrin a mug, then went on. "We shall not march on Capustan. We owe those people nothing. Each year we lose more of our youths to that city, to their way of life. Their traders come among us with nothing of value, bold with claims and offers, and would strip my people naked if they could." Perrin took a sip of the heady mead, felt it burn down his throat. He said, "Capustan is not your true enemy, war chief." Humbroltar said, "The Panyandaman will wage war on us. I know this, Malazan. They will take Capustan and use it to marshal their armies on our very borders. Then they will march." Perrin said, "If you understand all that, then why?" Humbroltar said, 27 tribes, Captain Perrin." He drained his mug, then wiped his mouth and went on. "Of those, only 8 chiefs will stand with me. Not enough. I need them all. Tell me, your new chief, can he sway minds with his words?" Perrin grimaced and said, "I don't know. He rarely uses them. Then again, up until now, he's had little need. We shall see tomorrow, I suppose." Humbroltar said, "Your bridge burners are still in danger." Perrin stiffened, studied the thick honey wine in his mug. After a moment, he asked, "Why?" Humbroltar said, "The Baran, the Gilk, the Akrata, these clans are united against you. Even now they spread tales of duplicity. Your healers are necromancers. They are conducting a ritual of resurrection to bring Trots back to life. The white faces have no love of Malazans. You are allied with the Moranth. You conquered the north. How soon will you turn your hungry gaze on us? You are the plains bear at our side, urging us to lock talons with the southern tiger. A hunter always knows the mind of a tiger, but never the mind of a plains bear." Perrin said, "So it seems our fate still hangs in the balance." Humbroltar said, "Come the morrow." Perrin drained his mug and set it down on the edge of the chest. Spot fires were growing in his stomach. Behind the cloying mead numbing his tongue, he could taste blood. He said, I must attend to my soldiers. Humbrol said, give them this night, Captain. Perrin nodded, then made his way out of the tent. 10 paces away, Picker and Blend stood waiting for him. Perrin scowled as the 2 women hurried over. Under his breath, he growled, more good news, I take it. Picker said, Captain. Perrin said, what is it, Corporal? Picker blinked and said, well, we've made it. I thought I should report. Perrin asked, where's Ansi? Picker said, he ain't feeling too good, sir. Perrin asked, something he ate? Blend grinned and said, that's a good one. Something he ate. Picker shot Blend a warning glare and hastily interjected, Captain, we lost Quick Ben for a while, then got him back. Only he ain't woken up. Spindle figures is some kind of shock. He was pulled into a Bargas warren. Perrin started. He said, he was what? Take me to him. Blend, get Mallet and join us. Double time. Well, Picker, why are you just standing there? Lead on. Picker said, yes, sir. The 7th Squad had dropped their gear in the Bridgeburner encampment. Deteran and Hedge were unfolding tents, watched morosely by a pale, shivering Ansi. Spindle sat beside Quickben, fingers combing absently through his tattered hair shirt as he frowned down at the unconscious wizard. Twist stood nearby. Soldiers from the other squads sat in their respective groups, watchful of the newcomers and coming no closer. Perrin followed Picker to Spindle and Quickben. Perrin glanced at the other squads, then said, what's with them? Picker grunted and said, see Hedge's swollen face? Deteran's in a temper, sir. We're all thinking she's got a crush on the poor sapper. Perrin asked, and she showed her affection by beating him up? Picker said, she's a rough sort, sir. Perrin sighed, guiding Spindle to one side as he crouched to study Quickben. He said, tell me what happened, Spin. Picker said a Bargas warren. Spindle said, aye, sir. Mind you, I'm just guessing. We was crossing a barrow. Perrin snapped, oh, that was smart. Spindle ducked, then said, aye, well, it wasn't the first one we crossed, and all the others were sleepy enough. Anyway, the spirits reached up and snatched Quick, dragged him out of sight. We waited a while, then they spat him back out, like this. Captain, the warrens have gone sour, nasty sour. Quick said it was the Panion, only not really the Panion, but the hidden power behind it. Said we was all in trouble. Footsteps approached and Perrin turned to see Mallet and Blend approach. Behind them walked Trots. A few ragged, sardonic cheers rose to greet him from the other squads, followed by a loud raspberry. Trots bared his teeth and changed direction. A figure bolted like a rabbit. Trots' grin broadened. Man, I love that interaction.
Oh.
I wonder who that was.
Yes. I know, I gotta know. And you know it's going to be somebody we already know, too.
Yes. Probably a sapper or something.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just trying to, it's Pick or I'm somebody I'm missing from somebody I'm not on the list here that I'm thinking of that's talking here. I'm like, oh, it's got to be one of those guys or gals.
Perrin ordered, get back here, Trots. We need to talk. Shrugging, the huge warrior swung round and resumed his approach. Mallet leaned heavily on Perrin's shoulder as he knelt down. He gasped, sorry, Captain, I ain't feeling right. Perrin said, I won't ask you to use your warrant again, healer, but I need Quickben awake. Any suggestions? Mallet squinted down at Quickben and said, I didn't say I was weakened, sir. Only that I ain't feeling right. I got help healing Trots. Spirits, I think now. Maybe Bargast. They put me back together, somehow, some way. And Hood knows I needed putting back together. Anyway, it's like I got someone else's legs, someone else's arms. He reached out and laid a hand against Quickben's brow, then grunted and said, he's on his way back. It's protective sorcery that's keeping him asleep. Perrin asked, can you speed things up? Mallet said, sure. Then slapped Quickben.
That's amazing. I love that one, dude. Most ancient of methods. Oh, yeah, sure. Whack.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely.
Quickben's eyes snapped open. He said, ow, you bastard, Mallet. Mallet said, stop complaining, Quick. Captain wants to talk to you. Quickben's dark eyes swiveled to take in Perrin, then, looming over the captain's shoulder, Trots. Quickben grinned and said, you all owe me. Mallet said to Perrin, ignore that. The man's always saying that. Gods, what an ego. If Whiskey Jack was here, he'd clout you on the head, wizard, and I'm tempted to stand in for him on that. Quickben said, don't even think it, and slowly sat up. He asked, what's the situation here? With a low voice, Perrin said, our heads are still on the chopping block. We haven't many friends here, and our enemies are getting bolder. Humbrol Tar's command is shaky, and he knows it. Trot's killing his favored son hasn't helped. Even so, the war chief's on our side, more or less. He may not care one whit for Capustan, but he knows the threat the Panion Daman represents. Quickben smiled and said, he doesn't care about Capustan, huh? I can change that attitude. Mallet, you got company in that body of yours? Mallet blinked and said, what? Quickben said, feeling strange, are you? Mallet said, well... Perrin cut in, so he says. What do you know about it? Quick Ben said, only everything. Captain, we've got to go to Humbroltar. The 4 of us. You too, Trots. Hood, let's bring Twist too. He knows a lot more than he's let on. And maybe I can't see that grin, Moranth, but I know it's there. Spindle, that hair shirt reeks. Go away before I throw up. Spindle muttered, some gratitude for protecting your hide, as he edged back. Perrin straightened and swung his gaze back to Humbroltar's tent. He said, fine. Here we go again. Sunset approached, spreading a gloom across the valley. The Barghast had resumed their wild dancing and vicious duels with an almost febrile intensity. 30 paces away from Humbroltar's tent, sitting amidst discarded armor, Picker scowled and said, they're still in there, the bastards, leaving us to do a whole lot of nothing, except watch these savages mutilate each other. I don't think we should be thinking it's all over, Blend. Blend frowned, then asked, want me to hunt Antsy down? Picker said, why bother? Hear those grunts? That's our sergeant taking that Baran maiden for a ride. He'll be back in a moment or two, looking pleased. Blend said, and the last trailing a step behind. Picker added, with a confused look on her face. Blend said, that's it? Imitating the maiden. Picker said, she blinked and missed it. They shared a short, nasty laugh. Then Picker sobered again and said, we could be dead tomorrow no matter what Quick Ben says to Tar. That's still the captain's thinking, so he leaves us to our fun this night. Blend quoted, hooded comes the dawn. Picker said, aye. Blend said Trots did what he had to do in that scrap. It should have been as simple as that. Picker said, well, I'd have been happier if it had been Deterin from the start. There would have been no near draw or whatever. She would have done that brat good. From what I've heard, our tattooed Barghast just stood back and let the weasel come to him. Deterin would have just stepped forward and brained the lad at the feather's drop. Blend interrupted, wasn't no feather drop, just a mace. Picker said, whatever. Anyway, Trots ain't got her meanness. Blend said, no one has, and I've just noticed she hasn't come back from dragging that Gilk warrior off into the bushes. Picker said, compensation for hedge running and hiding. Poor lad, the Gilk, that is. He's probably dead by now. Blend said, let's hope she notices. The two women fell silent. The duels down by the fire were coming fast and with a ferocity that had begun drawing more and more Barghast onlookers. Picker grunted, watching another warrior go down with a rival's knife in his throat. She thought, if this keeps up, they'll have to start building a new barrow tomorrow. Then again, they might do that anyway, a barrow for the bridge burners. She looked around, picking out solitary bridge burners among the crowds of natives. Discipline had crumbled. That fast surge of hope at the news that Trots would live had sunk just as fast with the rumor that the Barghast might kill them all anyway, out of spite. Blend said, the air feels strange. Picker thought, aye, as if the night itself was aflame, as if we're in the heart of an unseen firestorm. The torques on Picker's arms were hot and slowly getting hotter. She thought, I'm about due for another dousing in that water barrel. Short-lived relief, but at least it's something. Blend went on. Remember that night in Black Dog? That retreat? Picker thought, stumbling onto a Reeve burn ground. Malign spirits rising up out of the ashes. She said, aye, Blend. I remember well enough. She thought, and if that wing of Black Moranth hadn't spied us and come down to pull us up. Blend said, feels the same, Picker. We've got spirits loosed. Picker said, not the big ones. These are ancestors we've got gathering. If it was the big ones, our hair'd be standing on end. Blend said, true. So where are they? Where are the nastiest of the Barghast spirits? Picker said, somewhere else, obviously. With Opan's luck, they won't show up tomorrow. Blend said, you'd think they would. You'd think they'd not want to miss something like this. Picker said, try thinking pleasant thoughts for a change, Blend. Hood's breath. Blend shrugged and said, I was just wondering. Anyway, she rose then said, I think I'm going to wander for a while, see what I can pick up. Picker asked, you understand Barghast? Blend said, no, but sometimes the most telling communication doesn't use words. Picker said, you're as bad as the rest, Blend. Likely our last night among the living, and off you go. Blend said, but that's the whole point, isn't it? Picker watched her friend slip away into the shadows. She thought, damned woman, got me sitting here more miserable than before. How do I know where the serious Barghast spirits are? Maybe they're just waiting behind some hill, ready to jump out tomorrow morning and scare us all shitless. And how do I know what the Barghast war chief's going to decide tomorrow? A pat on the head or a knife across the throat? Spindle pushed through the crowd and approached. The stench of burned hair hung around him like a second cloak, and his expression was grim. He crouched down before her and said, it's going bad, Corporal. Picker snapped, that's a change. What is? Spindle said, half our soldiers are drunk and the rest are well on their way. Perrin and his cronies disappearing into that tent and not coming out ain't been taken as a good sign. We won't be in any shape to do a damn thing come the dawn. Picker glanced over to Humbroltar's tent. The silhouetted figures within had not moved in some time. After a moment she nodded to herself then said, all right, Spin, stop worrying about it. Go have some fun. Spindle gaped. He said, fun? Picker said, yeah, remember? Relaxation, pleasure, a sense of well-being. Go on, she's out there somewhere and you won't be around 9 months from now either. Of course, you might have a better chance if you took off that hair shirt, for this night at least. Spindle said, I can't do that. What will Mother think? Picker studied Spindle's fraught, horrified expression. She slowly said, Spindle, your mother's dead. She ain't here. She ain't watching over you. You can misbehave, Spindle, honest. Spindle ducked down as if an invisible hand had just clouded him, and for a moment Picker thought she saw an impression of knuckles bloom on the man's pate. Then he scampered away, muttering and shaking his head. Picker thought, gods, maybe all our ancestors are here. Picker glared about, then thought, come near me, Dad, and I'll slit your hood-damn throat just like I did the first time. Sounds like Picker may have joined the Malazan military to escape a bad situation in the past.
That's exactly what it sounds like to me. And the funny bit with Spindle there, with his mom, it looking like he's getting hit in the head is kind of funny.
That's something.
That
Maybe
is
there
something.
is a spirit there following him around.
Maybe so.
Grainy-eyed with exhaustion, Perrin stepped clear of the tent entrance. The sky was gray, faintly luminescent. Mist and wood smoke hung motionless in the valley. A pack of dogs loping along one ridge was the only movement he could see. He thought, and yet they're awake. All here. The real battle is done, and now here before me, I can almost see them. Stand the dark godlings of the Barghast, facing the dawn. For the first time in thousands of years, facing the mortal dawn. A figure joined him. Perrin glanced over and said, well? Quickben said, the Barghast elder spirits have left Mallet. The healer sleeps. Can you feel them, Captain? The spirits? All the barriers have been shattered. The old ones have joined with their younger spirit kin. The forgotten warren is forgotten no more. Perrin muttered, all very well, but we've still a city to liberate. What happens if Tar raises the standard of war and his rivals deny him? Quickben said, they won't. They can't. Every shoulderman among the white faces will awaken to the change, to the burgeoning. They'll feel that power, and know it for what it is. More, the spirits will make it known that their masters, the true gods of the Barghast, are trapped in Kapustan. The founding spirits are awake. The time has come to free them. Perrin studied Quickben for a moment, then asked, did you know the Moranth were kin to the Barghast? Quickben said, more or less. Tar may not like it, and the tribes will howl, but if the spirits themselves have embraced Twist and his people... Perrin sighed. He thought, I need to sleep, but I can't. He said, I'd better gather the bridge burners. Quickben grinned, then said, Trot's new tribe. Perrin asked, then why can I hear his snores? Quickben said, he's new to responsibility, Captain. You'll have to teach him. Perrin thought, teach him what? How to live beneath the burden of command? That's something I can't manage myself. I need only look into Whiskey Jack's face to understand that no one can. No one who has a heart, anyway. We learn to achieve but one thing, the ability to hide our thoughts, to mask our feelings, to bury our humanity deep in our souls. And that can't be taught, only shown. I agree that this is the case for normal people that are forced into command and not actively seeking it out. Then there are those that seek power over others, and I suspect that they couldn't care less about those they're responsible for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yes, I do.
Perrin growled, go rouse the bastard. Quickben said, yes, sir. And thus the chapter ends.
Good chapter.
I enjoyed this section.
Yeah.
Actually, this whole chapter was good. I really enjoyed it.
There was a funny chapter, man. There's a lot of comedy in this chapter. We've introduced the comic element that makes the serious stuff even more serious because Erikson's blending the comedy in there now. It's like, okay, wow. That makes the stuff more serious. Right on. Strangely enough.
You have to mix it in.
Oh, absolutely. Makes it real because that's how folks are. I am.
For standout moments, Quickben getting abducted by the hands which pulled him underground. Very horror movie-esque.
I agree. I do not love this.
Oh, yeah. I did not love that either. I enjoyed finding out that Talamandus still seems like a good guy and that him and Quickben are having a really successful collaboration together.
Yeah, I agree, and it's like, and I do love this, and it's something I forgot to kind of point out when Ben shows up there, or it's not when Ben, but I'm going to forget when he does it, but when Mallet shows up there on his hands and knees, basically in that puddle, that's a core. Does that stand out with you a lot of times?
Not that imagery specifically. What I remember is the trail of bodies that he has to walk as the souls are pushing him along.
Yeah. Okay.
In my mind, it's almost like you're walking a dock over water, but it's made out of bodies. Yeah. It's really crazy imagery.
Yeah, it is. It's strange, man.
Seeing Perrin have to make the tough call for the first time and him succeeding as a leader.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing this growth, and I hope it is because I want him to stop killing himself with this stress he's placing upon himself. With not being able to embrace what's going on with him. So anyway, I know I don't know what's going on with him, but I know it's easy to say, just go with the flow, man. I don't know what's going on. He said if he relaxes, he's going to fall back to the beast throne. So it's kind of one of these things that's like, well, so I guess that's part of it. He's constantly straining to not slip back there, along with the needs of looking after soldiers, which is killing him by itself. So
yeah. Mallet accepting the order from Perrin to heal Trots without hesitation.
Dude, it's just some really powerful stuff there, man.
Yeah, he was ready to make that sacrifice.
Was Mr. Erikson watching a bunch of Band of Brothers in this?
I think he got a lot of inspiration from that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
If not Band of Brothers, I think he said it was the Vietnam one.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what that one's called. I'm about to start watching this stuff, so I've yet to watch Band of Brothers. It's in my list of next things to watch. So.
The clever way in which Quick Ben was able to help Mallet heal Trots. That was pretty cool that they figured that out.
Yeah, what a move. And I see where the quick and the Quick Ben comes from, huh?
Yeah. And we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but that terrible toll the Barghast spirits paid to allow Mallet to perform the healing.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very touching. Really touching, really poignant scene there.
And then finally, Perrin's squad recognizing the choice he had to make and giving him the respect he deserves.
I really enjoy seeing this. This is really sweet seeing, we've seen a lot of acceptance, but we're seeing individual acceptance from people we'll see here and there more, I guess, that they're all kind of falling in line here. I love it, dude.
Yeah, it's great. All right, great job tonight, Billy.
Hey, yeah, man, great episode, great chapter.
Thanks. You got any final thoughts before we drop off here?
Yeah, just a really great chapter. I mean, I love the sacrifice at the Barghast spirits. That's really touching to me for some. And again, it's this, and the same thing from Mallet. There's got this nice mirroring here again, where Mallet is doing this same thing that these spirits do. That's why it's almost one of the reasons I guess they'll do it, because he's laying down his life to save a Barghast, and the Barghast are laying down their lives for him to do it. Yeah, it's going on in the physical and the spiritual realm at the same time. That's really cool, and looking forward to getting to the next chapter. Got to get back to Kapistan, man. That horde is waiting there, but do you think we might go to Kalor next? We mentioned Kalor earlier. We haven't touched base with Brood a bit.
Yeah, it's been a while, so it's possible we might go back to that group next week. I could see that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where we'll go, yeah.
Yeah.
Great episode, though. Can't wait to see it.
Yep. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey, we'll see y'all next week, everybody.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we'd really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at HorseFrogProductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.